به نام خدا و شب خوش. به ویژه برنامه گفتگو در یک خوش آمدید. مهمانان امشب گفتگو در یک جنرال گوتن کاتز سخنگوی ISAF در کابل و جنرال فلدمن کسی که تا یک هفته آینده سمت سخنگوی ISAF به عهده میگیره. Thank you very much for your coming to this show.
Thank you.
General, let's start with you. Most of the times in the West and European countries, because of unfair coverage of the international media from Afghanistan, the people hear there about the terror, corruption, and about the violence in Afghanistan. So you were in here. How different you find Afghanistan, and what is your primary impression from Afghanistan?
Well, I came to this wonderful country for the first time in 2003 already. And what I found especially fascinating was the vibrant life here. So many young people, so many good spirit to move forward. So, and I think this is still the case. So this is really a good place to be, and it's a good place to come to and to work for a bright and better future. So I see this opportunity to be here very good, and I'm looking forward being in this country and to contribute to a little bit to a picture a little bit more differentiated also in my country.
How much you will agree with this idea in the West and European countries that the money and the blood in Afghanistan has been West and nothing happened in this country?
From our perspective, it happened a lot in this country, and as I said before, I have seen tremendous changes to the better in this country. And yes, we have invested a lot as far as money and unfortunately as blood is concerned in this country. So we have to stick to our course, and I think it's a good course. We are working here for the better future of the people of Afghanistan, and that's a good thing to work for, I guess.
Thank you. We'll come back to you. General Katz, this is the last days of your working and serving in Afghanistan. How do you consider the ISAF mission, and especially you were serving in your service in my country? Were you really success in this country or not?
Yes. Well, I'm just a part in this overall mission of 50 nations that came here to make sure Afghanistan will never be a safe haven for terrorists again, and that also came here to assist the Afghan government in providing security and stability. I think, and you know much better than I do really, that we went a long way, we went a successful way. Since the international community came here, Afghanistan never again was the source of terrorism worldwide. Terrorism never started in Afghanistan since the international community came here. And we did a lot of work in building up the Afghan National Security Forces. We have around about 352,000 soldiers and policemen today. They are gaining capabilities. They're exceeding our expectations. They took the last month very wisely to prepare for taking the lead in security in the very near future. And we can see those proud men and women that they're ready and that they're able to pressure the enemies of Afghanistan, and they will provide security and stability, not only until 2014, but definitely also after 2014, since, and this is very important to note, they'll not be left alone. We will stay in your country, we will stay committed in your country with a different mission, but we will continue to help our Afghan partners in training, assisting and advising, and therefore we will also contribute to providing security and stability here in Afghanistan.
Let me specifically and particularly ask you about the tourists and tourism in my country and also the Taliban. there is a concern among the people of Afghanistan that the international community want to differentiate between the Taliban and between the Al-Qaeda. And at the same time, practically we see that the Taliban is doing the same as the international terrorism do. They are killing the people of Afghanistan. They are doing suicide attack against the civilian targets. Is it true?
Well, let me differentiate a little bit more in this regard. When we said we make sure Afghanistan will never be a safe haven for terrorists, we certainly focused on Al-Qaeda. And it's fair to say that we destroyed the network of Al-Qaeda here in Afghanistan. It's true, there are still Al-Qaeda fighters in Afghanistan, but the network doesn't exist anymore. And we keep on pressuring those Al-Qaeda fighters, actually as we speak. On the other side, there's a still existing group of, let's call them enemies of Afghanistan, who with weapons want to fight against the government of Afghanistan, to fight against peace, against stability. What we can see, though, is that those enemies of Afghanistan clearly are losing the fight. They are not able anymore to fight us, or actually better, the Afghan National Security Forces, face to face. Yes, we saw some very tragic attacks in the recent days and weeks, but clearly they give a wrong impression about the improving security situation here in Afghanistan. We can see that there are high-profile attacks, that there are insider attacks, so-called insider attacks, that there we have to expect assassinations. But again, those are attacks, enemy-initiated attacks that give a wrong impression. Overall, we can see that the ISAF is quite successful, that they were able to pressure the enemies of Afghanistan out of the urban areas. And I think it's also fair to say that the majority of your population already sensed and feels the increased stability and security.
We'll come with 2 points that you have mentioned. Just very shortly, General Feldman, how optimistic you are about the future of Afghanistan in this country?
Actually, I'm very optimistic about the future. We have set up an extremely challenging but forward-pressing plan to transition ISAF commitment to the Afghan National Security Forces. And I think that's the right way of doing the things in the country. So I'm really optimistic that we are at that point where we are able, and for good reasons, able to transition more and more of our responsibilities to the Afghan National Security Forces, and I'm convinced that they are able to fulfill their required missions.
One of the primary mission of, as you mentioned, you were in 2003 in Afghanistan. One of the primary mission of the international community was that ensuring or promoting the values of democracy in this country. Now in these days we hear from our colleague and international colleagues that there are some rumors that democracy is not working anymore in this country. Let's go back to those mechanisms that they historically had Afghanistan. How do you see the future of democracy in this country?
There are parts of the mission ISAF has to fulfill, and there are parts of the mission the people of Afghanistan have to fulfill, or the Afghan government. And we have to keep these things strictly apart from each other. So this is a question more directed to the government of Afghanistan and to the Afghan people, and they have to contribute to this better future too.
Thank you. بیننده های عزیز، تا لحظات دیگر برمیگردیم، با ما بمانید. بازم خوش آمدید. گفتگوی ویژه در یک است و 2 جنرال ISAF اینجا با ما هستند. General Katz, let's come to the 2 points that you have mentioned before about the enemies of Afghanistan, about the success of your mission in Afghanistan. This is true that the network of Al-Qaeda has been destroyed and dismantled in Afghanistan and Pakistan, but still we have problems of insurgency. How do you consider your mission toward tackling the insurgency in Afghanistan? The second point is you're working as a general in Afghanistan on behalf of the German army in Afghanistan. How do you see, and what might be the advice of you for the people of Afghanistan and also for the government of Afghanistan to get together and solve this insurgency problem in Afghanistan?
Those are very good questions, I have to admit. I think I mentioned already the first part of your question. What we can see is that actually more and more the Afghan National Security Forces fight the extremists, the enemy of Afghanistan, very successfully. ISAF will move, in particular in the very near future, more and more to a train, assist and advise role already. Notwithstanding that, we are still able to do combat operations until the end of 2014, and we will do this as well if required, if our partners, our Afghan partners, need support in this regard. But we can see that they are clearly ready to take the lead of security. They pressure the enemies of Afghanistan in areas that used to be safe havens for them. So they have hardly any safe havens anymore. We pushed them out of the urban areas already, and we can see that the fighting that still takes place in your country, I have to admit this, but the fighting is always won by the Afghan National Security Forces. There was no district in Afghanistan that was overrun by the Taliban. And whenever Taliban came back to the villages, your Afghan security forces, be it the ISAF, be it the ALP, was successfully able to push them out of those villages and restore security and stability. So you can be very proud of your people. It's always coming to your second part of the question. It's a challenge, I have to admit, for a foreigner to give advice to a sovereign nation, to a very capable army. It's a challenging thing for me. But let me maybe address one moment that I keep in mind, and I thought that would be a very important moment also in terms of mindset for the future. I just recently attended a graduation of a general staff course, and here all Afghans who received that certificate turned around and said, "Maba Afghanistan khidmat mekonam." And I think with this spirit that I sensed at this graduation, I have no doubt about a successful future of your country.
Let's come to another point that you have mentioned before, in your last sentences. You are claiming, and also the Afghan government claiming, that the Taliban are in a very weak position. Mm-hmm. And at the same time, the Taliban are a big threat in Afghanistan and for the future of Afghanistan. In the same time, as you mentioned before, in last 2 or 3 months, we were witness of high-profile attacks of the Taliban in Kabul and Nangarhar, in IOM office and also ICRC office. Mm-hmm. On which, reasons and basis your statements and the government of Afghanistan's statements on or that the Taliban are in a weak position?
Well, there are a couple of things. First of all, we see that the sheer numbers are getting lower. We are still trying to come up with the final statistics, but we see the clear trend already that the overall enemy-initiated attacks are getting less. Secondly, we see that the NSF is able to pressure the insurgency or the enemies of Afghanistan out of the urban areas. We also can see that the majority of all the fighting, we always say about 80% of all the fighting, takes place in areas where only 20% of the population is living. That means on the other side, that 80% of your population feels security and stability. if you talk to the 20% where all this fighting takes place, they are still concerned, and I fully understand this. But the other 80, they sense the progress that we made in this regard.
General Feldman, there are some propagation in Afghanistan and propaganda that after 2014 everything will collapse in this country. As a newcomer general inside the ISAF Afghanistan, what is your clear messages to the concerns of the common people in my country?
As Gunter said already, one thing is clear. The international community will stay committed to support your country. And it is a fact that NATO plus 10 other nations already made clear statements that they will stay in the country, that they will stay committed to our common cause in the future. And I guess that's a very strong statement also to our adversaries that we stay committed and we will do our job, whatever is necessary.
Thank you. And the last question, got Katz, from you very shortly, that the security of the presidential election in Afghanistan is very important, and the people and even ICC and Afghanistan has some concerns about that. Based on your calendar, the majority of your soldiers or forces is going to withdraw from Afghanistan before the election happened. If the government of Afghanistan asks from ISAF to delay their withdrawals because of ensuring the security in my country, is it any flexibility in your calendars or not?
Well, let me answer it the other way around. Our commander always asks the questions, do you think that the Afghan National Security Forces can provide security during the election? And that's, I think, the most important question, really. And the answer, the assessment from ISAF is, yes, they can provide security. But we all understand that there might be support needed, support by ISAF. And what I can tell you today is that ISAF is standing by with sufficient forces for that specific task to support our Afghan partners if required. They have the lead for the security during the election, but we will support them if we need to. And about the details, we need to discuss with the representatives from the Afghan government what exactly they need in terms of support.
Thank you. بیننده های عزیز، تا لحظات دیگر دوباره برمیگردیم و با ما بمانید. بازم خوش آمدید. ویژه برنامه گفتگو در یک هست. John Feldman, one of the big problem in Afghanistan is the corruption, and you're hearing every day about that. Where is the giant assignment for the Afghan and also for the international community to work together to tackle this problem? I'm sure you are a military person, but in the same time you have experience in the past. And what might be your suggestion for Afghans?
It's a little bit about the same issue we were talking about, improving democracy. I mean, it's as I said, we have tasks. They have to be done by the Afghan people and by the government of Afghanistan, and this is also true as far as corruption is concerned. And corruption is a very serious issue, so we need to assist, if required, to fight this corruption. But again, it's first and foremost the task of the Afghan people and the Afghan government to fight this corruption. And from what I hear, we making progress in this fight, but I'm here in the country this time only a couple of days, so I'm not able to come up with a final recommendation or a final solution to this. All I can say is this is a task very much related to the Afghan people and the Afghan government.
Thank you. And General Katz, one of the concerns among the public opinion in Afghanistan is the number of the NATO soldiers who will stay after or post 2014. Some days we heard 600 people, 800, 1,200 people, 2,000 soldiers in Afghanistan. Where is the main problem inside the ISAF countries or the NATO countries that they could not come to final decision for keeping their exact and particular numbers of their soldiers post 2014 in Afghanistan?
Mm-hmm. I know that this is a very important question, and many Afghans want to know what numbers we will have after 2014 for the new Resolute Support Mission. And indeed, I cannot give you those concrete numbers. Just very recently, the defense ministers in Brussels approved the so-called concept of operation. That's a strategic paper. And based on that paper, our planners now go into the details in terms of what numbers are required and what capabilities are required. It has been clearly stated that there will be a limited, so-called limited regional approach with presence in Kabul and other locations in the north, south, east and west. We will focus on training, assisting and advising, particularly at the what we call core level of the army and the police equivalent, and it will not be a combat mission. So we have pretty much the cornerstones of the Resolute Support Mission. Again, it's too premature to give speculations about the final number, and we hear a lot of numbers. You're fully right in this regard. What I can tell you is that two nations, Germany and Sweden, already gave concrete numbers. Germany just recently declared that they're willing to provide up to 800 soldiers for the new Resolute Support Mission, and we are quite confident that other nations will follow soon in providing those exact numbers.
There are some rumors among the people of Afghanistan, and sometimes we are hearing from diplomats that there is difference of ideas among the allies, NATO allies in Afghanistan. Some of them want to keep their soldiers in Afghanistan, and some of them don't want to keep. Is it true or not?
Well, again, those negotiations are already ongoing in Brussels, and it's of course always a sovereign national decision of our NATO members what exactly they want to contribute to the new Resolute Support Mission. It would be inappropriate for me as the ISAF spokesman to comment on those individual nations. But again, it's nothing. Those numbers have not been finally decided on, and we need to wait for the final decisions from Brussels.
Thank you. And very shortly, your messages for the people of Afghanistan, you generals, please.
Okay. First of all, it was a real honor for me to serve in your very proud country. It was an honor for me, and I will not forget this year with the great Afghan population, with your hospitality, with your kindness. And I know that many of you people are concerned about the future, but please let me ensure you that the international community will stay committed in your country. The Taliban will not be able to wait us out, and you will never be left alone anymore. I'm very confident about the future of Afghanistan.
And your message, General?
I'm proud to have the opportunity to contribute a little bit to a hopefully brighter and better future of this wonderful country.
Thank you. Thank you very much, General. Thank you, General.
Thank you.
Thank you. منده های عزیز، برنامه ویژه گفتگو در یک بود و دو جنرال آیساف با ما اینجا حضور داشتند. سپاس فراوان از اینکه ما را همراهی کردین. تا دیدار بعد، الله نگهدار.